Welcome everyone to Stellar Vibes with Ashley. I have my special guest, Jacquie Grillon. So, Jacquie, can you talk a little bit about yourself and also tell us your birthday? And if you know your sun, moon, and rising, you can also mention those as well.
Okay, so my name is Jacquie Grillon, and I love all things astrology and crystals and woo-woo and all the things. Even though in my world, none of this is considered woo-woo, it's all considered wonderful and amazing and magical. My birthday is 8/18/1966, so that makes me a Leo sun sign. I am a Cancer rising sign, and I am a Virgo moon. So we have a whole lot of oversensitive, organized
Yeah.
Leo action coming at you.
Yeah. Wow. And like what do you do? Are you like a motivational speaker? I was trying to do some research on you on your website. I'm sorry.
Listen, I got tons of stuff going on, right? And I'm between websites, right? So, yes, I've been a coach for a long time. I teach all kinds of classes. I run workshops and groups and things like that. And basically, I just like to help people remember who they really are, like underneath all of the masks that we have, ourselves and life has kind of imposed on us. And basically stripping down all of that stuff and just remembering, our essence, so to speak, because I feel like we tend to forget in the busyness of this world.
Awesome. So you're like a life coach, like a like that kind of
Um,
field or
yeah, I wouldn't really call it a life coach. I don't even know if I like that term. Like I went to school for counseling, like I have my degrees and things like that. But
okay.
I wouldn't, but I still don't like even the word, I still don't like the word coach. Like I
Mm,
had coaches when I was on swim team and things like that. And I had a
yeah.
dance teacher, but I never really called them coaches. Even in counseling, when I was in schooling and counseling, they didn't call it any of that. I feel like I'm a mentor more than anything else, an
Okay.
advocate. I like to advocate for people who don't have a voice, and I like to mentor people to remember to reclaim their voice, if that makes any sense.
Yes, that's amazing. I really like that. Yes. Yeah, I'm really big on advocacy too because I'm a nurse. So like
There
you're
you go.
literally the voice of the patient. If the
You
doctor or
are.
anybody is not really listening or understanding the patient's needs, I'm the one who has to like make the people,
Fight for
whoever,
them.
understand. Yeah. So I totally understand what you mean, but I'm not like a mentor or anything, but I can see what you're saying with the whole advocate for your people, whoever you're with.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So like how do you define communication in everyday life?
Okay, so I guess my definition of communication is clear, direct, honest. I guess they would consider it assertive, maybe,
Hmm.
because I feel like there's like passive and aggressive and all things like that. But I'm very direct and I guess assertive. I know pretty much what I want, what I don't want, what I like, what I don't like, what I'll take, what I won't take.
Hmm.
So that's how I guess I would describe it.
Yeah, I kind of have that feeling too. Like, because I love doing my research about stuff. I kind of think of communication as like how we share ideals, like feelings and information with others through words, actions, or expressions. Pretty much like
Oh,
what we're
well,
doing
yes,
today.
yes.
We're
If you're
expressing
gonna
our feelings about
Yeah.
and sharing ideas about astrology with that kind of stuff. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But your definition is
in
pretty
that
good though. I like
case,
it.
yeah,
Are
and
you
I love your definition because that's exactly what I like. I like to, get down and dirty and real and go as deep as somebody can go because I am not a servicey kind of girl. So I like to
Yes.
exchange all of that. And it's like, you're like, oh, I see the cloud this way. And I'm like, oh, I see the cloud that way. And then we're both like, oh, I didn't see that before, but I could see what you mean. And
Oh
so
yeah,
while you're
yeah.
exchanging those ideas, your mind is open if you're open to seeing other people's points of view and maybe even changing your mind or your views on things. And I am all about that. There's nothing worse than meeting somebody who says that they're open and then you have a conversation and you realize they are anything but open.
Exactly. Some people are just very closed-minded with sharing ideas and feelings and all that. So you may encounter people like that. And that could be hard
Yeah.
to communicate with someone like that. So do you believe that
Well, it's hard. It's when they tell you.
yeah,
When they tell you that they're open, and then you're like, oh, great, awesome, I love open people. But it's not
mhm,
until you start to have that open dialogue and you're not getting that
that
banter
vibe
back or
during the
what have you.
conversation? You're
Yeah.
like, "Wait a second, I thought you
Yeah.
were open to discussion. What's going on?" And then, like, sometimes the conversation will go, like,
Exactly.
way left, and you're like, "Wait, are you okay?" Like,
Come
it really
back.
tells you about
Come
the
back.
person that you're talking to, like, their personality comes out during the communication process, and you're like, "Okay, this is who you are, and I'm gonna have to be either super cautious or I can really be vulnerable with you." So,
Yes.
communication is very
Yes.
important in every relationship that you're in.
Absolutely. I don't know. I don't think anyone wants to hang out in vulnerability land by themselves. At least I don't.
Exactly. Yes. Do you believe that astrology can be beneficial in everyday communication life, or how do you feel about
Absolutely. I absolutely do. If I didn't study my own chart and realize that 90% of the readings that I got as a child and moving into adulthood were spot on, I thought that these people were just psychic and,
it?
whatever. But they were literally reading my chart like word for word. And I lived out my chart pretty much exactly the way it was. Now, I also get that our astrology charts are basically possibilities and they can pretty much go
Mm,
one way or another based on my decisions. But, most of us are walking around unconscious until we make our lives conscious or life kind of levels us and wakes us up in some way, shape, or form. And it usually
yeah.
does somewhere along the line. Then we can make different choices. But I literally played out my astrology chart in order. And then, of course, I made course corrections along the way or what have you. But
Yeah.
everything that is in there, I lived out, which is amazing to me. And I know that a lot of people think that it's hokey, but that's not my experience. I just didn't know that. Do I live my life by the astrology chart or whatever else? No, but I definitely use it as a guide and as a very useful in my life tool for
Yeah, I agree.
navigating the times. Just like even if you know nothing about astrology, like we're in Mercury retrograde, even if you don't believe in anything, just like the shenanigans trying to get this podcast up, today with the tech and all the other stuff, it's just like clear indications, miscommunications over the last couple weeks and the next, week or two to come. Just think about it. More accidents on the road, your computers and your phones glitching and all of that. It's just like, I think people think it's airy fairy. And it's just, to me, it's my current reality.
Exactly. I always tell people, "Oh, it must be the Mercury retrograde when I'm at work, when my computer's all messed up." And they're like, "What? What are you
And they're
talking about?"
rolling their eyes at you. Right.
I'm like, what is this lady talking about?" And it's kind of hard to explain to someone who doesn't understand astrology because you got to tell them about Mercury itself and then, the retrograde process. And it's just like it's a whole headache for them. And it's a whole headache for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they totally just don't get it. But yeah, like we're experiencing it. And, sometimes you just have to, I guess, be ahead of the game, realize, okay, it is Mercury retrograde. We're probably going to have some issues and we're just going to have to
Right.
be
Just
and
plan
plan.
for it. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you
Yeah.
plan extra time in your day, or maybe don't have your schedule as tight as it normally would be, and allow some room for life to work
Mhm.
its magic, whether it's Mercury retrograde or what have you, I think you'll be fine. It's basically a time to
Mhm.
slow down and reflect instead of like charging forward like we always want to do. And that's where
Exactly.
life will show you like, yeah, that's not happening today. And and then you have to kind of stop, and then it's up to you how you want to receive that. Do you want to receive that like and throw a tantrum, or are you going to be like, okay, yep, it's Mercury retrograde, maybe we'll try again tomorrow, or let's pivot and
Exactly.
let's take it this way, kind of thing, because it is a choice in how you respond or react to it.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, we'll talk about more about Mercury retrograde later in the video because I'm sure the audience is gonna be like, yeah, can y'all explain more what that means? Like what drew you to helping people find their voice?
Me not having one, not having my own
Um,
voice. Yeah, of
Mm-hmm.
course, right? Isn't that like always the thing? Like the therapist is usually the one who needs the therapy kind of thing, which is probably why I became
Exactly.
a counselor, right? Kind of thing. But yeah, because I wasn't allowed to have a voice, I wasn't really allowed to be who I was. Like it was not okay for me to be who I was. And that was expressed maybe not overtly, but it was expressed like, I'll give you something to cry about. I'll give you something to
Mm-hmm.
be angry about. Anything that you do or say is not acceptable, or that didn't happen, or I never said that, definitely messes with a person's psyche. So when you lose your voice and you reclaim your voice, you want everybody to be able to have a voice and to be heard.
Yes, exactly. So how do you adapt your style for different personalities?
Well, listen, I am a very strong personality. And I grew up with lots of strong personalities. So I'm very well versed in strong personalities. And again, I'm very well versed in how to not deal with them correctly, right? I've
Mm,
always reacted instead of responded. There was definitely not a pause. So if I got triggered, instead of like, distancing myself from the trigger, I would automatically like react to whatever was being said and this and that. So with clients today, there's all kinds, right? You get
mm-hmm.
very needy people who drain you in 5 minutes. And then you
Mm-hmm.
have people who want to tell you your job. And that's
Ah,
fine because I'm like, why are you paying me to tell you any of this? Because clearly you
yeah,
already have the answers, right? So
yeah.
there's plenty of all kinds of from there to there and everything in between, right? Personality wise, we have tons of them. And I am a self-admitted, very control freak, strong personality. Like I said,
Mm.
Leo.
Oh yeah.
But I'm
Mhm.
also with the Cancer rising, I am so super sensitive, and I'm very super sensitive in my consideration of others. So I think that
Yes.
that has helped me temper down all of that, plus all the stuff and trauma and healing that I've had to go through definitely makes me more aware and present of the different personality styles, and that I'm very intentional in how I speak or the words that I'm going to choose when I'm working with someone, especially when they're kind of showing you who they are. Like if they're reacting to little tiny things, then you have to kind of adjust and things like that. So it's
Yeah.
it's tough, but I feel like we all have to deal with that in everyday life. Until you know who and what you're dealing with, you kind of just are being yourself. And then after that, then it's kind of like, how much do you value the relationship? Do you want to work with this person? Is this person the right fit? Because it can't just be about the money. Because if you're doing it about the money, you're probably going to do somebody a disservice at some point, right?
Exactly.
Because if
Mm-hmm.
you're taking their money because you need the money, and this person is draining the life force out of you every single day, and you're allowing it to happen, then that's probably not serving both of you. And I feel like
Exactly.
whatever relationships we have, whether somebody's paying me or not, it needs to work for both parties or for all parties, because if it doesn't work for one, it doesn't work for any of us, and that's
Uh-huh.
it. So but that's hard because, like I said, if you need the money, I've learned that lesson the hard way. Like, how many jobs have you taken because you need the money? In fact, probably every job I had until I was 30, I took because I needed the money. It was never
Yeah.
because I wanted to. It made me feel good. It resonated with me. It was because I needed money. But you're selling your soul and you don't even realize it, that you're abandoning yourself. So now I try to be more intentional. Like, do I feel like I can actually help this person to help themselves? Because that's the name of the game. I'm not helping anybody. I'm helping them remember that they are quite capable of doing this themselves. And is that a good fit for both of us? And if I feel like it's, the spiritual benefit of all, then I'm going to be a yes. And if I feel like it's not, then, that's where you get out your referral Rolodex, so to speak.
I'd be like, you know what? I think you'll fit better with this mentor right here. They would be perfect for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know
Instead of just
what?
like shooing them
When,
away.
yes. But I also feel like those are some of the lessons that were, even in astrology, where it says that, you have challenges and opportunities, right? And
Yeah.
it's how you handle those challenges, right? So if
Mm,
you're presented with that and I say no to it, even if I need the money, I also know that this big, beautiful, magical universe is going to give that back to me tenfold someplace else. I just don't know where it is yet. Because by letting that person go, I'm doing right by them. Because at some point, I would have gotten probably short tempered or what. At some point, I would have gotten over it if they were really draining me. And then I could
Yes.
easily like blame them for it, even though it has nothing to do with them. They're just being who they are. But it would
Yeah.
just be real easy for that relationship to go left than to let
Mhm.
them go. And if I let them go and they do find who their person is, who does have that extra patience and tolerance, and maybe they don't drain their cup at all, and then that's a perfect fit, then that is serving the universe versus,
Yes.
me trying to serve my wallet.
Yes. I agree totally. I mean, I deal with that in nursing every day. Your patients are going to have different personalities and you have to adapt to it. So I'm a Scorpio sun and it's a fixed sign. So I'm very like routine based. So when I have a patient who's difficult, it's like, oh my gosh, I need to take a breather, relax for a minute, breathe, and then go back in there and figure out how I'm going to adapt to this type of personality. Versus somebody who's
Exactly.
like a mutable sign, they could probably adapt to that super easily and change the narrative. But I have to literally like, okay, this person is difficult. Let me go in the bathroom, kind of like breathe for a second, run a mission in my head to figure out how I'm going to make this person
Yep.
happy, and then go back in the room and do it. So I totally get it.
Exactly.
I understand completely. So yeah. So what does communication mean in astrology to you? It doesn't have to be like a full definition or anything.
I guess communication in astrology means how I'm interpreting what I'm reading, seeing, or experiencing, from
Mhm.
wherever my houses and planets and transits and everything
Mhm.
are. It's how I'm interpreting it. And also, like, what's actually happening in front of me. Like, and
Exactly.
how does that communicate with what I'm reading? And does it communicate at all? Or is it even in the realm? And how am I interpreting that kind of thing? So I feel like that's kind of how I work with it. And again, the communication is, I'm always on top of that. Like, hey, what's going on? Especially in
Mhm.
challenging times like this, like knowing what to expect. Some Mercury retrogrades, I don't have to worry about anything because it's not like my time to worry about stuff, right? This
Yes.
particular one, I'm very sensitive to for whatever reason. There's a lot of stuff coming up. And so I needed to be extra careful to communicate with what's happening in my stuff right now so I can work with the energy instead of having me feeling like life is working against me, which is never
Yeah.
true, but sometimes you feel like that.
Yeah. So like when you work with your clients, do you ever look at their chart possibly and look for where the Mercury is in their chart? Do you ever do something like that?
I've never done that, but that's a fantastic idea that because I look at my own, I
Yeah.
actually do it's like a soul path chart kind of thing
Mhm.
and I just get like basic information like you would for astrology and I put in their name and their date and stuff like that and it literally comes up with like this whole thing of like a soul plan and it tells
Ah.
me their challenges and what have you and different areas and it's sort of like astrology in that sense but I guess the algorithms aren't the same as what that is
Mhm.
but I do like what you just said because as much as I use astrology for myself I've never used it for clients so do you use it with clients?
Well, I don't have clients or anything, but
Well
I've
I
used
mean
it.
with
I've
your
used it
with
on
with your
myself.
patients,
I
yeah.
I probably should, because I know it's a HIPAA violation to have their
Oh
information and
right, oh
stuff. But
I gotcha.
but yeah, like I've always wished that in nursing, like you could use that to your advantage to kind of see, okay, this is why they're like this.
A
Their
tool.
Mercury is in the fourth house, or their Mercury is in the ninth house, or the 12th house. But yeah, because Mercury is the planet of communication, is what you think, speak, listen,
Yeah,
and share ideas. So it makes sense to go into a
exactly.
birth chart and just look for the Mercury where it is, where it lies, which house is in, which zodiac sign, where Mercury is in, zodiac sign wise. But yeah, and like the Mercury retrograde, people don't realize that when you look up in the sky, they think that Mercury is going backwards. That's why it's called retrograde, because they think the
Right.
planet is moving backwards, but actually it's an illusion.
Right.
So it appears like it's going backwards, but it's not. But it's known to cause mix-ups like communication, travel delays, and tech problems. So like I've had friends tell me, "Oh, I don't travel during Mercury retrograde because I'm afraid that something's going to happen at the airport, or maybe a plane is going to have technical issues, or like if you send an email to somebody, like that person will be like, "No, I never received that email. What are you talking about?" Or you may be talking to that person and there's a miscommunication between the discussions.
Absolutely.
So for those who are listening, that's Mercury retrograde, Um,
In a nutshell, she's
yeah,
nailed
and
it. Pretty much dead on. That's what's
it only lasts
happening.
for 3 weeks. So you got 3 weeks to prepare, and it comes 3 to 4 times a year. So I used to think it only came once a year, but it actually comes multiple times a year. So at least,
Yeah. And we get lucky. Yeah, we get
yeah.
lucky when it's only 3 times a year.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I look at my app and I'm like, oh, it's coming. So I need to go ahead and start preparing everything and be aware of everything that's going on. So
I used to think like Mercury retrograde was scary to me. Like, oh no, here we go. Like, like you were saying, don't do anything or don't sign anything and don't start anything new because it could get delayed. And so I that's how I used to view it. And now I kind of view it as a time like retrograde, the first two letters, right? RE,
mhm,
right? So I use it to like review, revisit, rewind, go back and kind of like go over everything that I have been doing in the last couple of months. And is this how I want it to go moving forward? It's a time for that pause. It's that time where it's not about do. It's about reflecting and seeing if
oh,
you want to
okay.
make any adjustments on things. And so now I don't view it as fearful as I used to. Now I view it as like, okay, like I'm not going to say I'm never going to sign anything or do anything. Like if it's my time and my lease is up on my car, then I'll sign the thing. It might mean that the when I go to pick it up might get delayed, or maybe on the way there it might get delayed, or maybe
Mm,
they'll, lose my paperwork and things like that. But it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means I should just expect some delays around that time and
yes.
expect miscommunication, expect emails to not land, expect tech on podcasts to go awry. Like, and when you go to edit it, maybe there's even more tech issues. Who knows? Like,
I know,
but to
right?
expect those things. I just don't fear it anymore. I just learn to incorporate more downtime in my days during that
That's
time.
a great idea. I didn't even really think about that because when I see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a terrible 3 weeks. But yeah, I probably should do more reflecting and just embracing it more than just being fearful of it, you
Yeah,
know?
because I was always fearful of it, just like I was fearful of the tarot and things like that. And now I just look at them as tools. They're just
Hmm.
information, and it's what I choose to do with the information. Because let's face it, probably most of America or the world do not talk about Mercury retrograde. So they're just like living their life and they're coming up against whatever they're coming up against when they come up
Exactly.
against it. And some of them are reacting great and some of them are responding great. And other people are probably reacting all over the place and maybe overreacting all over the place. But whether they know about it or not, it's still their lessons to learn.
Hmm.
It's still a choice of how you're going to react or respond to something on any given day, regardless of the astrology of it. I just happen to like I said earlier, my experience has been that astrology is a very useful tool for me. So I will continue to
Hmm.
use it.
Yeah, me too. So do you know which planets influence how we speak and connect? Do you know?
I don't, I mean, like I know Mercury is the planet of
Mm.
communication. That much I've always known, but no, I don't think.
Okay, so Mercury is one of them, and
Yeah,
so it shapes how we think and speak. And then we
right.
have Venus. People don't realize Venus is
How
important
we
with
love.
communication. Yeah, so like it affects kindness and charm. So one of the zodiac signs that Venus is represented is Taurus and Libra. So you may have some kind words to say to a person. You may say sweet words, flirting, or smoothing over conflicts. So, like, you can look at somebody's Venus and kind of see how they are with that. And then the moon, people don't realize the moon is important with communication because it guides emotional connection.
That's
So,
true.
And then
That's
Cancer
true.
is ruled by the moon. So you may have heartfelt talk, comforting words, or emotional tone, with the moon in your chart. So maybe next time when you have a client, you can look at their moon, where the moon is, where the Venus is, and especially the Mercury, because that's probably the most important
Yeah, no,
of
I
all the
love that.
planets.
I love that. I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to take that. I'm going to take that hack for sure. And I already know, like, I know where the Venus and moon are. And like, I have Venus in my Cancer, in my rising sign.
Mm.
I have the
Ooh.
moon in, like, my moon is in Virgo. So I already know that,
Oh, wow.
that kind of thing. I don't necessarily know where Mercury is in my little chart, to be
So like
honest.
Your Venus in Cancer, you probably love super hard.
I
Like your
do.
heart is big, especially if you like someone. Like
I
your
do.
heart must
It's
be
like,
really
yeah,
big.
you're like all in kind of thing or what have you.
Yeah, all or
Um,
nothing type thing. Yeah, so like in my birth chart, I have Mercury in my Scorpio, and it's retrograded actually when I was born. So like with Mercury, we know that it's a planet of thinking, communication, and learning. And then Scorpio is the deep, intuitive, private, investigative communication style. And then obviously with retrograde, you think and communicate in a more reflective, internal way. And then also rethink or visit ideas often. So I guess with all of that together, so it says I'm a deep but charming communicator. I guess because of the Scorpio and the Libra, because the Libra is in my third house. The third house is like, uh, it represents communication and stuff like that too, and how you speak. And it says I'm curious and observant, which is true because I'm the type of person like, because like when I first met you, like, I looked at your Facebook and then I went to your website to kind of see, oh, okay, this is what she does. And she seems to really want to advocate for her clients and help with their voice and all that stuff. So I thought that was amazing, and I can feel people's vibes too,
Thanks.
you know,
Yeah, same.
probably because
Well,
that
you're a
Scorpio.
Scorpio, girl.
Yeah. So, and I'm a private thinker, which I am. I don't just tell everyone what I'm thinking. I like to keep some stuff to myself. Um,
Well, that's that Scorpio. You got a mysterious whatever versus I'm a Leo. I don't want to tell everybody what I'm thinking, but
yeah,
I'll tell you what I think about certain things, but like the other stuff like I keep to myself, but not like you. You're more on the down low with the Scorpio vibe
yeah.
for
I mean, unless
sure.
I
Like
unless I'm
it
like
takes a
really
while for
comfortable.
somebody to penetrate that before you feel it.
Yes. And then it says I
Yeah,
prefer
you
real
have to
talk.
have somebody meet you in vulnerability land, probably. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like I've
You know
realized
what
like
I do have a question about though?
yeah, I realize that I don't deal with small talk very good. Like I'm one of those people like I gotta have
No,
a
I
real
don't either.
conversation with you to really be engaged. If it's a small talk, like I'm just like this is so cringy and awkward. Like I don't know how to deal
Same.
with it.
Yeah,
And
how's
then
the weather? Oh, it's sunny today. Oh, that's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, get me out of here right now.
exactly, I
For
have like
sure.
anxiety when someone does that. Like, oh yeah, I see that they're working and this can
I can't
want to
even
get into
watch
the
it on
hospital.
TV when they're having those conversations.
But it just feels
Exactly.
not real when you're just having small talk. Like it's not really a real conversation.
Uh-uh.
It's just you trying to
No.
like say something. That's it. Just to get rid
It's
of the
getting you
awkward
from the
silence.
exactly. And I'm okay in silence. I
Mm.
actually don't mind silence. There's no awkwardness in silence. There's only awkwardness if somebody's feeling awkward. I don't feel awkward in the silence.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when it's quiet, I'm like, did I say something wrong or is there something going on? Like that's what I'm feeling when it's silent, Oh, I guess conversation is not going so well or something. Like that's what I'm thinking. But I don't know. I tend to overthink too. So
I'm an overthinker and like very, ADHD, so I'm always overthinking everything, but I
hmm
used to have to fill the silence. I could never allow silence, right? I would have to fill in the gaps. And now, once I've learned to enjoy the quiet and have healed a bunch of things, I love allowing the silence to just go wherever it goes. But it's interesting because I see people who still need to fill it in. They need to because otherwise it gives them anxiety to not say something. They have to fill it in because they're not comfortable being quiet within themselves yet. They're not
mm,
okay with the stillness of it all.
yeah. I guess you could say I'm an introvert. So if it's like another introvert, like in the room, I'm
Oh,
like,
forget it.
oh my gosh, now I got to be
You're
the
both
extrovert
there
in this
thinking
situation.
about all of it. You're both overthinking in your heads and nobody's saying anything out loud.
Like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to play an extrovert right now, and it's just so hard and cringy, like trying to play the extrovert in the
Yeah,
situation because
nobody.
that person is like, I'm not doing that. You need to be the extrovert, not me. Like it's like
Exactly. You don't
a
want to
game.
force it. Exactly.
And it says that I like to balance truth with kindness. So yeah, that's true. You can be honest without being harsh, you know. And some people they feel like they have to be harsh in order to
I used
get
to
their
be I
point
used to
across.
be I used to be one of those people. And I didn't mean to, but I also didn't know that 90% of my personality is my ADHD. And that does not by any means excuse me. It just explains and it actually helps me because I've been shamed for that my whole life. My impulsivity, I'm like, oh my God, did I say that out loud? Oh my God, did I say that out loud? And it just kind of comes out. And then I'm like, oh crap,
Yeah.
you have to learn at some point, like maybe you don't say everything you think or everything you feel, kind of thing. But I was one of those people where it's like, yeah, it was true, but it really wasn't nice. It wasn't kind. It wasn't helpful. It wasn't even helpful. And I certainly
Yeah.
didn't have any compassion behind it, but I didn't have any compassion for myself. So how could I have compassion for you? But that's how
Yeah.
I used to be. And then,
Oh, that's
obviously,
that Virgo moon in you. That's why you're a self-criticizer, probably. Yeah.
yes. So if I'm doing that to myself, how do you think it's going to come out to you? What do you think
Oh
my
yeah.
relationships are going to look like? It's going to be like brutal truth and who asked for it, what have you. Like the Cancer was oversensitive to taking information in, but it wasn't sensitive and being compassionate about my filter going out at the time. Now it
Oh yeah.
is. Now I'm like the mama bear who cares probably too much and wants to help people where they should be helping themselves. And I have
Yeah.
compassion and I have forgiveness, but I didn't have any of that back then. So it was always brutal honesty and it was like literally cutting, like my words would be cutting, and that's not nice for anyone.
Yeah. And it says that I have strong gut instincts, which is true because you can look at a person and be like, "Ooh, she's gonna be a mean girl. I'm gonna have to watch my back on." Because some people exude like energy. I can feel the energy. I
Yeah.
guess it's the Scorpio in me. I can feel energy
Yeah.
from people even before I even talk to you. I can feel that energy.
Same.
And if I can feel it, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna have to judge a little bit
The
and
wall.
observe more like of you before I get close to you. You see what I'm saying? To make
Exactly.
sure I'm wrong. Like my gut
Absolutely.
instinct is wrong. So when I looked at that, I was like,
No, I
yes,
totally
that
agree. And
really resonates with me. Yeah.
yeah. And don't let anybody talk you out of your gut instinct.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. So yes, we talked a little bit about the Mercury, Venus, and the moon. Um,
Yeah.
so do you know what houses in astrology are tied to communication? Do you know?
Well, obviously, I think it's the fourth house, third, fourth. I know like one of them is like family, one of them is like marriage, one of them is like professional life. So I'm guessing a bunch of them are, if you're depending on how you're labeling communication or what have you. But where
Yes.
I get tripped up is depending on the places, like my chart is my chart, right? My chart is never changing, my birth chart anyway. My chart today is obviously whatever, that changes every day. But
Mm-hmm.
the chart, that my natal chart is still the same, but depending on which astrology somebody's reading it from, or which app you're on, or which astrologer, where they get their info from, like my first house in one train of thought is Cancer, even though it's my
Uh-huh.
rising sign. And in another astrology train of thought, it's Leo because that's my sun sign. So that's my first house in some astrology is Leo, but in other astrology, it's in Cancer. So depending on what they're reading it from, my houses and my things are still the same. My planets in the houses are all still the same, but the number of the houses change because if I'm number one in somebody's astrology chart and
Mm-hmm.
my Leo is number two, but yet in another astrology chart, my Leo is my number one and my Cancer is number 12. I mean, that throws off everything into
Oh
like,
yeah.
well, which astrology are you most vibing with, And it's interesting because I was playing around with that, like which one do I resonate with more? And I actually resonate with both types. And I don't even know how many, to be honest with you, I don't
Yeah,
really, I was honest with from day one. I don't know how many different kinds of astrologies there are, but the two that I'm aware of, because I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to have my Cancer in the first house, not my Leo. And then I'm like, no, it's supposed to be the Leo, not the Cancer. So I get thrown off with the houses thing because if one thing is thrown off, the whole thing is thrown off. So I kind of get lost. Whether I have planets in one thing or not, that doesn't change. It just
yeah,
changes of what number they're labeled.
exactly. I think I use Placidus because I go to astrocafe.com to look at mine. And it looks like for the houses that it uses Placidus. And then like for
Do they use the sun sign or your ascendant as your first house?
so the Placidus, I think it uses the first house, the ascendant. And
Yeah, as
then
your
tropical
your
one, I
ascendant.
think they
Yeah.
use the sun sign all the way to Pluto and all that stuff. I could be wrong. I'm not like I don't have a certification. I just know that, certain ones like Placidus,
Yeah.
tropical.
I think that's the one that starts with the end. Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess with
I
the
believe that's
Placidus
how it
part
goes.
of it, the third house is because we discussed it earlier, everyday talk and learning. And I think siblings is a part of it too. So you were actually close when you said it. And then the ninth house is teaching and big ideas and also long distance communication. So you may be the type of person who likes to travel and communicate with people from different countries or something, or teaching or
Absolutely.
whatever. And then the seventh house, I think the seventh
Yep.
house is the one you're referring to with marriage, relationships,
Marriage.
partnerships, contract, that kind of stuff.
What?
And
Yeah.
then
What's the fourth or fifth? Isn't it like fourth or fifth something as well? What are they? What did I say? I want to know what the fourth house is. Represents home environment, family life, and the father, or perhaps the same sex parent. Your family orientation, ability to dig into the past in order to discover your roots or your being,
mm,
and how your father or perhaps your mother was experienced by you.
oh, okay.
That's the fourth. The fifth says creativity and self expression, also offspring. So, like, the
Hmm.
fifth has to do with your personality, like your artistic expression. And then it says, is therefore represented by planets in the fifth house or the sign of the fifth house cusp. So, it's
Hmm.
interesting that, again, depending on what you're looking for, I mean, if we're looking at communication, let's get real because it's going to be every house, right? How are you communicating with everything that's going on? Like, do you know what I'm saying? So every single house is going to interact with you, and that's going to be a communication
Mm,
between you and the planets in the house, or you and the house energy to begin with, depending on
mm,
which sign it's in. So it's still going to be a relationship between that. So to me, that is a dialogue or a communication of sorts, whether
yeah,
you're in the dialogue or not. Like either you're in it and you're helping co-create it, or maybe it's just kind of having its communication one way with you. But I feel like they're
mm,
all going to be some way, shape, or form. But I love how your definition of communication has opened up my definition of communication to even get to that point.
yeah. And like it depends on where Mercury is too. Like your Mercury could be in the second house or another house. So you have to think about
And
that
it
too.
is, but that's weird.
Hmm.
Yeah. But that's
It
weird. So is
shapes your
Mercury in my
communication
Leo
style.
or is Mercury in my Virgo?
Hmm.
Yeah. So, like, I guess depending on which astrology you're looking at, I'm like, okay, so is it affecting me here or here? Because those are two very different signs.
Exactly. And then like the 11th house, it's group or community communication and also networking and friendships. So I guess with these houses that I brought up, I think they are directly tied to communication overall. And then ninth house is communication long distance. Yeah, you're going to communicate with different partnerships and different relationships in your life, especially marriage. Like you're with that
Of
person every
course.
single day. You're going to be communicating with that person every single day directly. And then, the 11th house, friendships. Everybody has a friend or somebody they talk to every single day. Like I
True
talk to my
that.
friends on Facebook every single day. It's nonstop. And then community, like when you're working, you're doing stuff in the community.
I
So you're
totally
talking
agree.
to a broad range of people. I see what you understand. Like every house is important, but I think these are like direct communications.
Directly
Yeah,
in
directly
relation to
tied. Yeah.
how we communicate in the world.
Yes. So like my Mercury is in the third house. So that means I have strong focus and communication, learning and sharing ideas. Kind of like with this astrology thing. I mean, with us having this podcast together, like this is us sharing our ideas and communicating about astrology tied to communication. Like this makes me, happy. Like literally talking to you about this and me building a community of
Right.
astrologers, coming together and literally talking about astrology and
I
then
love it.
sharing this with people who are watching these videos. That's tied to my Mercury being in the third house. This is the everyday thing that I would like to, talk about. So,
Yeah. And that's so funny because if Mercury is in my third house in Virgo in the one chart, like I said, it's either in the second in Leo in one or the third in
mhm.
Virgo in another. I have the same thing that you have going on.
Yeah,
You know what I was thinking of when you were sharing is that depending on what jobs you had, we don't really
mhm.
get to pick who we work with. As adults, we get to kind of sort of pick who we work with and
Yeah,
sometimes even not there. But friends, you were sharing, like, do you ever realize, like, I realize that a lot of the guys I attract or the girlfriends or the groups of friends or whatever else, definitely how I get along, like, I get along with Scorpios, I get along with certain Tauruses, I get along with Pisces
yeah,
women and sometimes Pisces men, but it all depends. Same thing. I get along great with Scorpio women and I've dated Scorpio men, but that can go either way.
yeah.
It's just interesting how you gravitate towards certain signs and you only know their sun sign. You don't even know the rest of their picture. You don't even know
Exactly.
that.
That's why
You don't
people
even know.
they don't understand. It's like, yeah, their sun sign maybe because I used to anytime someone told me they're a Gemini, I'm like, nope,
My
nope,
sister's a
we are
Gemini
not.
and she is a Gemini. She's a chatty Cathy. She loves everything that's going on. She wants to be in everybody's stuff and she knows, she can rattle off everything on TV. She can write things.
Yeah,
She knows she's in the know about everything. And she's a typical Gemini, but I don't even know the rest of her chart. You know what I'm saying? And she's bigger than that.
yes.
She's more than what that is. But I used to say the same thing like, oh, no, no, no. Oh, you're a Gemini. Oh, no.
Yeah, but I was wrong because
Exactly.
that person has other things in their chart that could make them who they are. So I used to
Right.
think all Geminis are like this. No, like
Yeah.
there are some Geminis who are just very great people. My mom is a Gemini, and me and her, we didn't really have a really great mother and daughter relationship. I had a stepmom, she's a Gemini, and we didn't have a whole like great relationship either. And then like I started going into the working field and I didn't get along with that person who was a Gemini. And then I
Yeah.
had a friend that was, well, ex-friend who's a Gemini, and we didn't have a good outcome. So I was like, you know what? I think all Geminis are just
Right.
no, a no-go for
Well,
me.
of course, that was
Yeah.
your experience. What else would you
Yes.
know? Like, until you even look at your own chart. And even though I've looked at my chart for a million years, but it's not even until the last, decade or so that I've dove deeper into it. And as you can see, I still don't know everything about anything, but everything is like spot on when it comes to that stuff. But it's very fascinating to me, the psychology of the whole thing.
Yes.
Because, like you said, there could be a Gemini that has whatever in their house and whatever in their house that takes the edge off or softens up something, and it's
Exactly.
all our prejudgments of whatever, and we all prejudge everything. Like you said, I prejudge if I get a shitty vibe and I know they don't like me, I already am like, okay, and so I already am thinking, I'm already having some feelings about it, and now I have to react and respond to that. But it's not going to be the same as if I met somebody that I didn't get any vibe from. I would give a chance to somebody I didn't get any vibe versus somebody I got a crappy vibe from, and that's my own
Exactly.
judgment. And, so my work is to kind of try and be more neutral, even if they're coming at me with a vibe where they automatically don't like me. And no matter what I do, it's not going to change. I'm going to have to go into with a neutral vibe like they like me, even though I know they don't. But I need to treat them and the situation as if they do, because unfortunately, like my vibes start talking to me way before their mouth ever opens. That's the
Mm,
problem.
yeah. So I've noticed like with Geminis, they are very social people. Like my mom loves to talk. My
Yep.
stepmom
Yep.
loves to
That's my
talk.
sister. Yeah.
Everybody who's a Gemini I've, associate with, they love to talk. Like that's their go-to in the community is just
That's
talking,
their
talking, talking, talking.
communication. Well, think about it. It's Mercury. It's Mercury, right? If Gemini is
Yeah.
ruled by Mercury, that is
Mm-hmm.
they're actually doing
Yeah.
their job.
Yes. Yeah. So all the air signs, Aquarius people and Libra, they like to talk too, but not as much as a Gemini. Gemini is
No,
number one with that. So, and then
for
like me, I'm more of like the emotional. I'm a Scorpio. So I guess any water sign you deal with, they're going to be more emotional with their communication style or
yeah,
be more intuitive with how they talk to people.
yeah.
So like some people may not like that. I think that's why I don't always get along with Gemini people because I guess we trigger them when it comes to emotions and they're like, "Oh no, I don't deal with emotions. I deal with, just being a social butterfly and just having a positive outcome in the conversation."
Woohoo!
Cuz
Right,
I
exactly.
can go deep in any type of discussion, whether it's positive or negative.
Me too. Me too. But I
Yeah, so
think that that's the Cancer. But I believe that that's probably the Cancer, my Cancer that allows me to do that. Like, that
yes.
allows me to have the watery emotions and be super sensitive and to even feel all those feelings before anybody opens their mouth. I think that that is the Cancer in me. So I agree with you. I guess depending on what you have, like I don't have a lot of earth signs in my
Yeah.
chart, and yet my son is a Capricorn and he is as earthy can be.
Oh, my husband is too.
And
My
he's the
husband is
polar
Capricorn
opposite.
all the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and I am like me and you are like you, but my son is like you would never know what he is thinking or feeling. And you got
Yeah.
to drag it out of them. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah. And I think because, my husband's a male too, so he's just
Hey,
like, no, you need to stop thinking about the emotional thing and just think logically and practical. Like
that's how my
that's the earth
son
sign
is.
right there. They're just
Yep.
like, whether I'm emotional about it, this is what needs to be done logically.
Yeah.
Leave the emotional stuff back there. That's the Capricorn energy I get from him. And then he
Yes.
has like a lot of Sagittarius energy too in his chart. When I looked at his birth chart and I was like, this is why he has like this fiery, passionate communication style with him. He can be passionate about some stuff, when he discusses things. That fire sign, that Sagittarius placements that's in his chart. So
There
he's
you
like
go.
all earth and fire in his chart. And I'm like, this is why he's like this. This is why. Like, this is
All
why he's
right.
brutally honest. This is why he's more of a logical thinker,
Yeah.
communicator. Like, this is it. Fire and earth. No water sign in sight. I think he only has one water sign and I mean sometimes he taps into it, but it's rare. I don't really see it.
Same.
So
Yeah, yeah. My son is the same. My son is definitely the same way. But you know what? Fire and earth is very grounded fire, right? So,
yeah, to me, it's a very weird combination, because earth, I think of like trees and with the ground and grass and all that and flowers and stuff, and then the fire just burning through the
oh,
through the
well, we're
earth.
not saying he's a wildfire. We're saying he's a grounded fire,
Oh yeah.
like in a fire pit in the woods.
Oh, the fire pit in the woods. So
A
he
contained
brings
fire.
warmth.
He's a contained fire because he's grounded.
Ah,
A
yeah,
wildfire would be ungrounded. That would be just
yeah.
the fire having
Okay,
its
not
free
the
flag
wildfire, but the fire that's
in a
contained
fire,
in
right? A
the campground or
contained
something.
fire, right?
Yeah, okay. Okay, that's a good, yeah. And it's like if you get too close to the fire, you could burn a little bit. You
Yeah,
have to sit back a little bit and wait and see like
exactly.
how he's gonna react. So yeah. Yeah, that's a good
Analogy?
way of yeah. Have you ever like done a synastry chart? Like, do you even know what a synastry chart is?
No.
Okay, so I've done this with me and my husband. I love synastry charts because I'm all about love and figuring out if you get along with people, or whatever. But you pretty much take both individuals' birth chart.
Oh, like you compare to see your compatibility kind of thing?
Yeah, so you take their birth chart and you combine it together, and it just shows like how they connect with each other And if they have any challenges or any type of
Oh, that's
communication or love,
awesome. That's
yeah. So
great.
you know those lines that like appear in the middle of the natal chart? It's the same with the synastry chart when you combine the
Just
birth
like
charts together.
overlaps them so you can
Yeah.
see where there's
So
squares and trines and
yes,
all
yes.
right, that's cool.
Yeah, so like the trine is sextile and trines are
They're good.
good aspects, right?
Squares,
Yeah.
trouble, challenge.
Squares, oppositions are trouble,
Yes,
definitely. And they always say, as far as like communication styles and stuff like that, you look for Mercury and Mercury, Mercury or their Venus, Mercury and their moon. So with these categories, if let's say they're all trine and sextiles or whatever. So
right.
if you
They
have
all get
a
along with each other.
yeah, so like Mercury, Venus, they may have a pleasant, friendly conversation if it's sextile or trine.
Right,
Or like if their Mercury and Moon are sextile and trine, they'll have a better understanding of each other's feelings.
right.
And
That's
then if they
awesome.
have Mercury and Mercury, they're sextile and trine, they're thinking and speaking alike. So, like for instance, me and my husband, I looked in our synastry chart, and our Mercury and Mercury are sextile and trine, and I'm like, what? I did not know that our Mercuries are sextile and trine. You know, because I mean, even if you do have sextile and trine, you're still gonna have little spats or
Of
whatever.
course.
Yeah,
Right. You got to,
so
I don't care who you live with,
yeah,
you're going to
don't
have
think because
something.
that happens like it's oh, everything's pleasant in this relationship. No, it
Exactly.
doesn't work like that. Like it
Right.
just says that, you're able to work through these challenges
Easier. Yeah.
easier. Yeah. So like if you do have square oppositions for each of these, like Mercury, Mercury, you have different ways of thinking or you're talking past each other. Or if you have Mercury and Moon, feelings are misunderstood.
Right.
And then if you have Mercury and Venus in square opposition, word may come off the wrong way. And then, but I forgot about Mars. So if there's Mercury and Mars in square opposition,
Woo.
um, conversations can turn into arguments because Mars is all about
Yeah.
how you act, like how you deal with things. So can you tell me how emotional intelligence work with everyday life? Is that something that people need to work on
Uh,
in their
of
daily life?
course. Of course, I'm going to say yes because that's what I lead from. Like we were talking about earlier, I lead from my water sign. I lead from my Cancer. Everything is about emotions. If I can't feel it, then what are we, is it even real, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, yes, I feel like everyone should work on their emotional intelligence. It's so, so difficult when you are a person that wants to go to the watery depths of everything, to be having conversations with people who are absolutely fine and normal, but can't go there. They don't
Yes,
have that depth. But the emotional intelligence, I feel like, can be developed. I've learned to develop it. I was never as deep as I am. The only reason I'm as deep as I am is because I've had a lot of things happen to me. And let's face it, we all have. Nobody comes from functional families. But B, I've healed through those things. And you have to go to those places inside of you that you don't want to go to heal those things. And the deeper
yes,
you dive, the deeper you can hold space for other people, right? So if you go
exactly.
to
Yeah,
a therapist and that therapist cannot hold space for you and you have to deep dive, like deep down, and they've only done their work to here and you have to go to here, they're not going to help you because they can't go there. They can't
yeah,
hold a container for you in a safe space if they haven't done their own work. So, of course, I want the whole entire planet to raise their emotional intelligence and their emotional, whatever EQ or something, whatever they call it. I think it's imperative because for connection, just for connection alone, like how can you connect with somebody any kind of deep levels if you can't, if you're here and they're down here?
yeah,
Like people talk
yeah,
about raising your IQ, which is fine. You go from here and you raise it up, but your EQ is about going deep. You got to go down.
yeah,
And nobody wants to do the work. Most people do not do the healing work. They do not want to go. Let's face it, we do everything we can to distract ourselves, and I'm included, like scrolling,
hmm
binging. I mean, today's world is designed to keep you away from going inside and diving deep into you. And you
Yeah.
connect with someone else on a deep level if you don't even know who you are. I think that I'm passionate about it because, and I feel like everybody should do it. I didn't have a choice. Like emotional pain made me go to those places.
Yes.
But B, I'm so grateful that I did because I'm able to connect with people in ways that unless I've gone to those places, I would never be able to connect with.
Yes.
And that's how I can help them because I've done that work that I can hold space really deep because I've had to go that deep. So I can be a safe space for someone to do that. Because if you can't feel safe in the place that you're going to do that work, like you said earlier, you're not going to open up to that person, right? If you're hanging out in vulnerability land by yourself, it's not happening. Like I'm not opening
Yeah.
up. I need to feel safe. And it's not just a woman thing. It's an emotional vulnerability thing. And I feel like the deeper you can go emotional intelligence wise, deeper connections and realer connections you're going to have.
Yes. I believe that too. That's why, like, with a Gemini person, like, they don't want to tap into that
My
emotional.
sister does not want to go deep.
Yeah.
She's
They don't
like,
want to go
la, la,
there.
la, la. They don't
It's
want to go there.
scary. It's
They
scary
don't
for
want to.
them and it's too
Nope,
much. So,
nope,
I may not be able to
nope.
really go deep with, someone who's an air sign, you know what I mean? But I may be able to go deep with someone who's possibly an earth sign. I mean, sometimes earth signs they try to tap into that, but if it's far too deep, they can get kind of scared with that too. Because I sometimes I get to that level with my husband. And he's like, wait a second, this is not logical. This is too emotional for me. This is not going to help and benefit the situation. Because they're all about discipline and structure. As an
Yeah.
earth
And
sign.
you would
Yeah,
think an earth sign could go deep, right? Could
yeah,
earth into that deep grounding. But
yeah.
you're right. It really is. It does depend. So obviously you can go
Mhm.
deep with any water sign, whether they've done their work or not, because it's just innate in them. And I feel like fire signs, depending on who you're talking to, whether they want to or they don't, I feel like we're all capable of it. But just like anything else, some of us are going to have to work harder at it at others.
Yeah.
I didn't ask to do the work that I've had to do. Emotional pain brought me to my knees a million different times in a million different ways to have the depth that I have. I didn't
Oh,
sign up
yeah.
to be like, oh, let's get some depth today. Let's build my emotional intelligence.
Yeah, like with fire signs, it's like you said, it depends on the person, but they do have open minds
Yes.
about going there.
Yeah,
Because
I
they're all
agree.
about adventure and then, putting themselves in a risky situation. So like with a Leo or something, like I can probably go there with a Leo, but they're probably gonna talk more about themselves more than me expressing how I feel. They'll be like talking about how they feel more than me expressing how I feel. Cause Leos, they're all about center of attention. You see what I'm saying? They're gonna be vulnerable with you, but it's gonna be more about them. So like
Unless they're
sometimes I have to think
protecting
about that too.
themselves.
Like, can I be
Yeah,
vulnerable with this person who's not gonna allow me to express myself with them if they're
right.
just more centered to themselves? So, but yeah, I can definitely talk to a fire sign about some stuff,
Yeah, I
depending
guess
on
it
who they are.
depends, right?
Hmm.
Because as much as yes, I'm a Leo, and yes, the center of attention or center stage or the limelight, I guess, appeals to
Hmm.
me on some level, and on other level, like if you look at my social media, I am very private, at all, and
Oh wow.
I know I need to be posting more videos and doing other things or what have you, and my business is, I'm very grateful for the business that I have because it's basically referrals and I've been teaching for years and stuff like that offline. So I have
Uh-huh.
all that, but the necessary steps to move forward is to be seen. And it's funny because where years ago I would have loved that, now I'm kind of like, oh, do I have to? Do I have to? And
Yeah, you matured. Yeah.
yeah, and also especially before I did any healing work, I would rather hear about you because then it distracts me from having to look at me. Because if you're asking me about
Yeah.
me, then I'm going to feel vulnerable and I don't know what to do with that. So it's easier to ask you about you. So I guess
Yeah.
it really depends on where they're at emotionally, or mentally or whatever it is. And you can take all of the astrology into effect all you want, but you also are
Yeah.
dealing with whatever is in front of you pathology wise, that they grew
Yeah.
up with and what's been processed and healed from their past and what hasn't.
Mm. Yeah, like for example, I dated a Leo like years ago. before my husband, and every time we went on dates, he would be like talking about how he hates his job and how, I have family members who are doing this, and I'm like, he was being vulnerable with me, but it was more like he was vulnerable about himself more than me actually like expressing
Connecting.
how I feel. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm like, this doesn't resonate with me. I can't deal with somebody who's just not allowing me to express myself and be
Yeah.
vulnerable with them. Like, it turned me off. So we ended up not, obviously we ended up not, having a relationship,
Of
but I just
course.
remember like I can't date somebody like that ever. Like
Well,
I need
think
somebody
about
to listen
it.
about me too, I need
Yeah.
I need some way of talking about myself too.
Reciprocity. Yes.
Reciprocity. Yes, exactly. So
When you go
I
out to
remember that and I
eat,
was like, nah, I can't date someone like that.
no, when you go out to eat with a date and they're talking all about themselves, even if they're trying to impress you and they don't ask you one question about you, gotta go. Like, you don't care about me. You just want to talk about you. And I get that nerves and things like that come into play.
Yeah,
But if you don't even ask me one question and you go home thinking that you have a shot at a second date because we had such a good time, you had a good time with yourself because I wasn't even there, you know?
exactly. I was just listening, like, oh, okay. I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry that you're going through this,
Uh-huh. Right, exactly.
because I was empathetic with him.
Of course.
I felt that energy. It's just we weren't doing that. Like we weren't.
Banter. I love
Yeah, it
banter.
wasn't like, oh, he talked about himself, and then
Flowy.
it was my turn, like
Yeah,
to express how I felt in my
right.
life. And then plus it was like the first date, so I feel like the first date should have been more about being positive more than like talking about problems. So I was like, this
Yeah.
is a red flag. I don't know.
No
It,
bueno.
so, what is one tip for more honest and powerful conversations?
Listen more. I feel like take a pause, listen
Yeah,
more. I am ADD, right? Self-admitted, I know exactly, and now finally diagnosed, which I didn't know. And I would always be shamed for interrupting. And what I now have learned about myself is yes, I interrupt when I'm super excited or passionate about what they're talking about. It's not to be like heard because I'm forming my next sentence kind of thing. You know how some people are like, they're not listening to you because they need to tell you how good and wonderful they are and lead from their ego to make their point about something, whatever it is or whatever.
yeah,
Where mine was basically pretty innocent enough where I'm just like, yeah, me too. Yeah, 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 and
hmm,
but I have learned like, sometimes like just back it up, take a pause, listen to what's really being said here. And for me, it's more like listening to what's not being said, what's not being expressed that I'm
yeah,
feeling and tapping into the dissonance between the two. Because sometimes, like you said, it matches up and you feel the vibe and there's banter back and forth and it's great. And other times it's forced. They're telling you one thing, but you know that that is not what's happening. And to try and do a deep dive, like with clients, I know to ask different questions if I'm getting a different,
yeah,
with humans, you can't really, do that with strangers. You kind of have to be like, okay, like, they don't want to go there. They don't want to go there. I'm not going to probe. But obviously, if they're my clients, I'm definitely going to go there, or they're my
yes,
friends or people I
exactly.
love. I'm definitely going there. I
I deal
can't
with that every day
pretend.
with with patients. If they don't want to go there, I'm not going to step into that in that realm with them.
Yeah, but
Like
it's so tough when they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine," when you know they're not fine and
exactly,
you
yeah,
know that you're an ear and, not that you're going to help them or, save the world or anything, but that you could offer them to be heard at least if they were willing to go there. But you can't make somebody go there.
yeah. Because sometimes I'll just be like, "Hey, I see you're looking upset. You want to tell me what's wrong?" Like I don't. It's not a forceful question. It's just
Yeah,
them
yeah.
giving them an open for them to open up more without me forcing it. So yeah, I totally understand.
Right.
Like listening and all that. It really helps because sometimes I just want that person to listen so that I can release some of that energy, that negative energy that's clogging up my system. And some people think, oh, she just wants me to do stuff for her and stuff. No, I just need a listening ear, someone who could just
Right.
be like, you know what, I'm sorry, and or whatever. And like, I actually feel better just talking about it. not
Yeah.
necessarily receiving help from that person, you
I
know?
totally agree. Listen,
Hmm.
most of us, we all just want to be, we all want the same things. We all want to be loved,
Yes.
seen, heard, valued,
Hmm.
all the
Hmm.
basic things in life, whether you receive them or not, that's what we're seeking, in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. So how can listeners can connect with you? Like, do you have I know you have a website. I don't know if you want to.
Sure, you can reach out. My website is Jackie, spelled like it is on that little screen, inspires.com. And on there, you could set up some time on a calendar. You can text me, call me, email me, however your preferred method is in today's world. We all have different ways of communicating. Again, back to communication, right?
Yes. And do you have like a social media platform they can follow or
I mean, sure, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, but like I was sharing earlier, I'm not like the one that's out there like putting content out and doing all that stuff. I'm kind of
yeah.
where it comes to that. So
Yeah.
they're basically just their business pages, but even though they're basically you're not going to see much out there. Hopefully, you'll be seeing more out there as I'm more comfortable putting that out there. I know it's a necessary evil if you're going to help people. You have to do that in today's world. I'm
Yeah.
baby stepping my way into that land,
Yeah,
but
because
I'm
I
out
realized
there.
that, like, with my podcast or whatever, I guess you can say low key I'm an influencer. I don't really
There
call
you
myself
are.
influencer, but podcasts, I kind of have to utilize social media to put
Yeah.
myself out there to gain more listeners. Because I mean, people they use social media now, so in order
And
to reach out,
it's
you got
out
to be
there.
in social media platforms and stuff.
That's
And
it.
sometimes I don't have time to like post and
Engage,
all that stuff. So I have to like
nurture.
make the time to do it. It's like super hard, you know. It's like because I have a
And
life
you
too.
have a baby. I know.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. But thank you for being my guest on my podcast. I really had a really good conversation with you, and hopefully in the future, we can have more episodes together
I would
and
love
talk
that.
more about, whatever you want, astrology or
We'll dive
more.
deeper into the things.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really excited about that. So yeah, thank you for the listeners for watching this video, and we will have more episodes in the future. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.